All right, guys, in this video, we have some really exciting news to go over and talk about. Do you guys remember Google Stadia? Do you remember back in 2019 when Google came out here and they were letting us know what the future of gaming was and how it was a cloud-based gaming platform? I'm sure some of you who've been around for a while remember me talking about Google Stadia around this time and how I made it clear that I think this thing is going to be a colossal failure. I hope it's a colossal failure because I absolutely cannot stand this idea of cloud gaming. I have no issue with the idea of cloud gaming being something that's supplemental to the core platform experience, such as what we're seeing with Microsoft's xCloud or with Sony and PlayStation Now. I have no problem with that. But when a big corporation such as Google walks through the door and says, we're here to usher in the future of gaming, and that future is cloud only, I have a problem with that. So yes, I do think that the news we're going over today is good news. And frankly, I think that we should rejoice over this news because it just goes to show that the fear that Sony, and yes, this was a real thing apparently, the fear that Sony once had when they heard that Google was entering the gaming space in a significant way was completely unfounded. And frankly, I think Google Stadia has proven to be pretty laughable, honestly. And I also have to add to this that none of this, absolutely none of this surprises me. Anyway, I know I'm ranting a little bit here already right off the bat, but Google Stadia, and I'm a little bit late to this news, but you know I had to cover it. Google Stadia is shutting down its game studios, impacting 150 people, including Jade Raymond. Google Stadia's team is getting out of the game development business. Now, obviously, I feel for the 150 people who unfortunately lost their jobs because of this, and I hope that they're able to bounce back very soon, and I hope that they find jobs, maybe working and developing for a platform where their work will actually mean something. Maybe it's Sony, maybe Nintendo, maybe even Microsoft. It is quite unfortunate, but still, putting that aside, I can't help but see this as a good thing. And so this was something that, as I said, was announced earlier this week, and they announced it on a blog post where Phil Harrison came out and was just like, hey, you know, we're going to focus on building on the proven technology of Stadia. And they're talking about deepening their business partnerships. They're making it clear that they're not investing in any further exclusive content development. They're shuttering their studios. And, you know, come on. I mean, is it safe to say that this is over? This is over. Stadia is dead. At this point, there's no chance for Stadia, and I'm really happy for that. Unfortunately, though, as one leaves, another one enters the ring. We have Amazon. Yes, that's right, Amazon, apparently getting ready to get way more serious about making video games. Says here, this is reading from Bloomberg, Amazon's next CEO says he's committed to making video games. Responding to a Bloomberg report about turmoil in the gaming division, Andy Jassy told staff he sees a bright future ahead. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he sees a bright future. You know what I love about this, guys? It just goes to show that the gaming industry is not one to be taken lightly. The gaming industry is not an industry where you can just have all the money in the world and decide, we're going to be a big player in the game now. No, you're not. No, you're not. You got to prove it. You're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to pay your dues. And Google, I think, learned that the hard way here. I mean, look, I give Microsoft a lot of crap on this channel, okay? And I think most of it is justifiable. I have my reasons. But if there's something I will give them credit for is they have persisted. They came in the gaming industry, you know, years ago. And they, at that time, were probably looked at in a very similar way to, well, I don't want to say similar to Google because at least Microsoft was trying to take the traditional route of, hey, here's a game console. We're going to make exclusive games. They at least did it right, is what I'm trying to say. They made it clear that if they're going to carve out a market for themselves, they're going to have to kind of go the, you know, tried and true traditional route. And look at what that has enabled them to do now, many years later, where now they have the ability to just kind of do whatever they want and do some really weird, crazy things, whatever that may be. But they had to start on the right foot. They had to start off on the right foot. And I will give Microsoft credit for that, but there's a reason why Sony and Nintendo are as respected as they are. It's not just because they woke up one day and said, we're going to be great in the video game industry. They had to work for it. They had to earn it. They had to, as I said, pay their dues. And, game development has proven time and time again to be a very nuanced thing. It's not something that you can just throw money at it and you're going to get something great. That's just not how it works. There's a lot more involved than that. And you can't just basically say, we're just going to form a bunch of teams and we're going to make great games and we're going to have a cloud only platform and it's all just going to work out perfectly fine. Meanwhile, your competitors are literally just stomping you, absolutely stomping you to the point where you're not gonna get through the door. You're just not gonna do it. If Google took a different approach where they maybe decided to make a game console, and then also have their supplemental cloud platform, and then they didn't announce this until they maybe had a big exclusive game ready to show running on that platform, running on that console, I think this would be a completely different situation. And if they weren't going to do that, at the very least, they could have just entered the industry and maybe just become a third-party publisher, put your games everywhere. That's something maybe Amazon will do. I'm not so sure that Amazon's going to do that. To me, Amazon is coming off as another Google where they want to come out and be like, we have our own platform. And it's not that I'm against competition. I want you to understand that as well. I am all about competition, but I feel like when you're talking about very limited competition and what we're seeing here with Google, where it's like, hey, we want to not only strong arm our way into the industry, but we only want to give you one way to interact with our platform. It's like you're literally asking to fail. You're setting yourself up for complete failure. So, I know I'm kind of ranting here, but it's because to me, this was a long time coming. I have not talked about Google Stadia probably since it was announced, because what has there been to talk about? It's been an absolute disaster. And, if you're somebody listening to this and you like Stadia and it's like your favorite platform, it's nothing against you. You're allowed to like what you like, but I think this definitely goes a long way in proving that this is not what the overwhelming majority of gamers want. If you were to talk to the majority of gamers, I think overwhelmingly most of them are going to come out and be like, yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't want to play through the cloud. That's not really how I want to play my games. I want to play them in the best possible way. And I get that Stadia could be a more cost-effective way, but in reality, it's like, it's not just about the money. I always try to say that it's not just about the money. This is an industry where you get what you pay for most of the time. I can't say that that's all of the time, but most of the time you get what you pay for. And people have kind of accepted this model of, well, I want a quality experience. I'm going to pay for the hardware, whether that's hardware from Nintendo, hardware from Sony, hardware from Microsoft. Or if they don't want that, they can go to mobile gaming on their tablet or their phone, where you're not going to get that quality experience, but you're also not going to have to pay for it. And in between there, I guess Google thought that they could carve out something of their own, which I don't blame them for doing that. But it's just so crazy to me that you hear Phil Spencer come out and say, and this was a little while ago, but Sony and Nintendo are not really our main competition. It's Google and Amazon. And I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? This is your competition? Well, geez, no wonder why you're not stepping up your game, or it's taking you so long to do so. This should not be your competition. These guys are literally closing down their studios before they even produced a AAA game. That should tell you all you need to know. So I hope that Phil Spencer's mindset has changed since then, and that he does now see Sony and Nintendo as their main competition, and not Google and Amazon. Google and Amazon have a lot to prove. Microsoft still has a lot to prove. And, I think Microsoft, if they play their cards right, they can definitely they're making waves no matter what with their acquisitions, but I think that they could really kind of elevate themselves and make it just that much harder for these mega corporations to just think that they can just basically push their way in. So I'm really happy to see this, in case you can't tell. Again, I really feel for the people who lost their jobs. It's going to be interesting to see where Jade Raymond goes. It's worth noting that Shannon Studstill, she was the head of Sony Santa Monica Studios. She actually left that studio for some reason to go to Google. I don't know if they just enticed her with a much, higher pay rate or whatnot, but either way, the studio that she was working at seemingly is closed down now. So I don't know if she's going to stay at Google or if she's going to maybe come back to Sony Santa Monica, which would be ideal. But either way, it's unfortunate news for those who were working at these studios, but in general, I think this is good news. And most importantly, I think this proves that what I was saying, and this isn't me trying to, make myself sound like anything. I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but it is something I do want to bring up where, the energy that I have now is the exact same energy I had when this was first announced. And I think anybody who's listening to this, who was following me for this long, you can attest to that, where I knew this was going to fail. I thought it was a terrible idea, and I just didn't think it was going to be something that really anybody ended up caring about. And I'm happy to see that I was right in this case, because if Google Stadia would have taken off, that would have been highly concerning to me. Cloud gaming is not the future. I don't care what anybody says. And let me tell you, if it is the future, we're talking about the far future. We got a long, long way to go before cloud gaming is the way that 90 or 95% of gamers are playing their games. Let me tell you. So all while I'm saying this, while Google Stadia is clearly burning to the ground, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the Nintendo Switch, tangible hardware, local hardware, they're just breaking records and selling like crazy. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that that's what gamers want? They want the local hardware experience. Crazy, right? It's just the way it's always been. It's probably going to be the way it always will be. Maybe Google will come back and actually try to make a console next time. Anyway, that does it for the video. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did find it somewhat informative. Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon. And feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.